What's up, guys? As you saw in the first part of the B-roll of this video, I finally acquired my absolute dream car, a 981 GT4. And I've been working hard to acquire one of these, and I've been on the lookout for one of these for a long time. And one of the best cars I've ever driven and owned so far. Put about almost 200 miles on the car so far, and wanted to do a little review for you guys. But I'm actually at the top of Mount Lemmon in Tucson, Arizona. It's a beautiful, beautiful location. If you guys have never been up here, and even if you've been up here for a drive and hit the top and never hiked any of these trails, I mean, it is beautiful scenery, and you can get out of the desert and up into some woodlands, which is nice, especially in the summer. So let's get started. So the car is a 2016 GT4. It has the carbon ceramic brake option and the carbon bucket seats. And it's almost the perfect spec. They call that technically fully loaded, minus the Club Sport roll cage, which you can get, which, if you're gonna, I guess, add a roll bar and add some seat harnesses, that might be a useful feature. So I know this can be probably a dream car for a lot of people, and I just wanted to let you guys know what to expect when you're getting into a Porsche GT car, and how practical it is for a daily driver, what it's like when driving canyons, and then hopefully a review with some track driving. So the first thing is the power of it. So it actually has a engine from 911 Carrera S, so it makes close to 400 horsepower and actually gobs a torque. And what's unique about the Cayman is it almost weighs as much as an S2000, so pretty lightweight car, mid-engine, and 400 horsepower in that thing is plenty. It might not seem like a lot on paper, but that car definitely scoots. I drove it up the mountain so far, and even at 6,000 feet at elevation, feels like plenty of power. So no lack in power there. It's and the engine sound is just intoxicating. I mean, it is the best sounding engine I have ever heard. It's got this crazy growl, and hopefully I can get some clips of the exhaust note and maybe like cold start video. But stock exhaust with the valves open, crazy. Next thing I want to talk about is actually suspension. The suspension spring rate is actually pretty stiff, but one thing I was a little concerned about just daily driving it possibly was how harsh the ride could be. But with the Porsche fancy black box stuff they have in there that adjusts the suspension based on road conditions, it'll actually detect the road, and if it's pretty bumpy, it'll soften up the suspension, the dampers. So pretty comfortable when the suspension is soft, and then there's a button you can press inside to make it even firmer, which I only played around with on perfectly smooth roads. You really don't need it unless the road is like glass smooth. So harsh, well, I would say firm but compliant suspension. So it's a perfect mix of sportiness and without being too harsh. And then with those massive carbon ceramic brakes, it's it's kind of a compromise, right? So on the street they're gonna squeal, obviously, because carbon ceramics, if you don't get them up to temperature, they can make a lot of noise. But once you get some heat in them, that's when they really come alive, grab, and they don't make as much noise. But the stopping power is unbelievable. In that light of a car with that big of a rotor and everything, it's more brake than you can ever need. I think so. With the Michelin Cup 2 tires on it, it would probably lock those tires up for how much brake it has. So luckily it's got a pretty good ABS system to handle braking power and distribute it. So pretty good there. Moving on to steering feel. So I was a little concerned about the electric power steering, but the weight of the steering and how precise it is, and literally zero play on center. I mean, it is the perfect feeling power steering rack I've ever felt. The S2000's close only because, again, there's no play on center in the S2000, and then it has a pretty quick steering ratio. So the rack in the GT4 is a little bit slower, but it's almost more predictable with a little bit slower rack. And then this is actually my first mid-engine car, so it's interesting. From a front engine car, you can actually feel when you lift off the throttle that it wants to turn in more in a corner. And then when you accelerate out of a corner, it actually wants to push wide. So I've never really felt anything like that, and I'm still trying to retrain my brain to get used to that. But driving this thing on Mount Lemmon, it feels insanely stable, and it's very confidence inspiring, I would say. I'm almost glad I went with a Cayman instead of a 911, because I heard the rear engine car in the 911 can be a little bit dicey sometimes at the limit, but Cayman mid-engine chassis feels absolutely incredible. And then the Michelin Pilot Cup 2 tires, I think they're the A1 model or something like that. They're actually 180 tread wear tire, so I'm probably gonna get like 5,000 miles out of those tires max. So I haven't really heat cycled them yet either to really find, you know, how much grip they have, but so far they feel pretty good. But I think once those tires are burned up, I'll probably go with like maybe a Super 200 or Endurance 200, because I want to put a lot of miles on this car. And then the thing that was nice is I actually worked out a deal with the Porsche dealership, and it's under certified pre-owned warranty for 3 years included, limited miles. It doesn't include consumables, obviously, but it's really nice peace of mind, especially a car that expensive. It's you can drive the hell out of it and not really care. The only thing is it does log if you have any mechanical over revs, so you just have to be careful that you don't money shift it or anything. But I don't think I've ever money shifted a car ever. And then consumable and maintenance costs on those things, I don't think would be too terrible besides tires. I mean, it's like a 245 in the front and like a 295 in the rear. I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but that's pretty much what it looks like. 20-inch wheels, so tires might be a little bit on the pricier side. So I'm gonna have to price some stuff out once I wear these Michelins out. But yeah, and then brakes, the carbon ceramics, you could always swap out for steel rotors if you're gonna run out the track a whole bunch, just so you don't burn up the carbon rotors. So it's always an option. And then gas mileage wise isn't amazing. The forums will actually tell you that on the highway you're only going to get like 20 miles per gallon max. So on the way to Tucson I was cruising at like 70, and I was actually getting like 25 or 26 miles per gallon, which with all the aero on the car, that's pretty much what I expect. And a huge tire with a lot of rolling resistance, sticky tire, it's par for the course with that kind of car setup. So one thing I was not really expecting is how much attention the car gets, especially just cruising down the highway, and that bright red color. And a lot of people know what that car is, a lot of people don't. But my dad actually came by and he's like, that almost looks like a Ferrari because it's that Ferrari red color. But it's really cool, the attention that it gets and the prestige of it. I know, you know, Porsche engineers have been working since the almost 60s to perfect their cars, and it really shows, sticking with the same chassis for that long a time. They really perfected everything on that thing, and I really don't think you can get a better driving car. I mean, the way every single driver input feels between the shifter, brake, the throttle mapping, the fueling in the car, even at high elevation, I mean, the throttle mapping is just amazing. It's super consistent. You know exactly what you're getting. And especially when you're driving the car at the limit, you want controls that are predictable and repeatable so you can really lean on it hard. So that's one thing that's really cool about the car. And the reason why I think these cars are so pricey is because the refinement in the controls. Man, I've done this trail so many times and I cannot get over the view. It's absolutely perfect. But I do want to talk about a couple of drawbacks, even though there aren't very many with the car. So one thing is, if you're going to get the carbon bucket seat option, the thigh bolsters are pretty tall, so it requires a bit of effort to climb in and out of the car, but the seats are very comfortable once you're inside. But if you're trying to run errands and get in and out of the car a bunch of times, it is kind of a pain. You gotta almost like lift yourself up off the steering wheel area and kind of roof to get yourself out of that bucket seat, because once you're in the car, you're in it. So, and then like I talked about, gas mileage isn't amazing, but it's a compromise I'm willing to make for a car with that level of performance. Again, it's got this crazy, you know, burble sound when you let off. It's not like a fake burble tune like the BMWs do. It's a very natural sounding, like high compression burble. So that's probably where the gas mileage is a little bit reduced because of that feature, but I don't regret it at all. If you have a car like that and you spend that much money, I don't think you're too concerned about gas mileage as much. It's all about the joy and experience of it. And speaking of which, every time you get in that thing, it is like you're in a race car. It is an experience, and there's no other car really like it that I've felt before. And I've driven a ton of performance cars. I'm sure, you know, the people have known me for a long time too know that I switch cars fairly often, but I think this car is very special and it's going to be a keeper. The only thing I would probably upgrade to is maybe a GT3 or GT3 RS down the road, saving up even more money. But what's good about that is, if you do own a GT car and you want an allocation for a brand new GT car, Porsche is pretty good about honoring customers that have pre-owned special cars, and you'll get a little bit ahead in line, or you'll get an allocation for other GT cars that come out in the future. So there's probably going to be more videos to come on the car, but I did want to get at least an initial review of it. I'll probably do a 6-month or maybe even a year update on the car, just to show you guys again what it's like if you're looking to get one of these, or spending most of your life savings like I have to afford a down payment and the payments on it. So if you guys have any questions about it, I'll be happy to answer them. Again, I don't have a ton of miles on the car yet, but I'll try to answer as many questions as I can. I do want to possibly take the car to the track in the fall when it gets a little bit cooler out, but I'm still in the price shock phase where it's my baby and I want to take care of it. So even though the car came with full like frontal PPF, paint protection film, and it's got the warranty, I'm still a little bit nervous to take it out places because it is such a special car. Surprisingly, the insurance is fairly cheap. Shout out to my sister that works at Farm Bureau. She got me, pretty good deal on the insurance for it. So depending on your age and driving history, obviously that can vary. But yeah, for me, it wasn't too bad. I don't want to get into price specifics, but it was actually cheaper than my M4 to insure, which is kind of crazy for full coverage. So not the craziest thing in the world. I'm sure a GT3 would be obviously higher maintenance and higher costs all around, but so far I think this is a good balance and compromise for getting into a Porsche GT car and being able to enjoy it without too much invested. I know people buy like GT3s, GT3 RSs, and then not want to drive them because they are so pricey, but I do want to be able to enjoy this car and actually drive it and enjoy it like it's intended to be.